This first story comes from Tyler, a 19-year-old college student from Oregon. Tyler was always careful about her social media presence, keeping her friend lists small and her personal information private. But sometimes, being careful isn't enough. It started during her sophomore year at Portland State University. Tyler noticed she was receiving snaps from an account she didn't recognize. The username was simply a string of random numbers and letters. At first, the snaps seemed innocent enough. Pictures of empty hallways, random street corners, and blurry images of buildings she couldn't identify. The strange part was that these snaps always came at night, usually between 2 and 4 a.m. Tyler tried blocking the account, but within days, a new account with a similar random username would start sending her snaps. This pattern continued for weeks. Each time she blocked one account, another would appear. The images were always dark, always taken at night, and always seemed to be of abandoned or empty places. Then the snaps started to get more personal. One night, Tyler received a snap that made her blood run cold. It was a picture of her dorm building taken from the parking lot. The timestamp showed it was taken just minutes before she received it. Her hands trembled as she screenshot the image and immediately called campus security. The security guard who responded was sympathetic, but explained that without more concrete evidence of a threat, there wasn't much they could do. He suggested she contact the police if the harassment escalated. Tyler hoped it wouldn't come to that, but deep down, she knew this was just the beginning. Over the next few days, the snaps became increasingly disturbing. Pictures of her car in the student parking lot, the entrance to her specific dorm building. Even more chilling was a snap of a hallway outside her dorm room, clearly taken late at night when the hallway was deserted. Tyler was terrified. She started staying with friends, avoiding her own room whenever possible. She changed her daily routines, took different routes to class, and even considered transferring to a different school. But the phantom snapper seemed to anticipate her every move. The breaking point came on a Thursday night in November. Tyler was studying late in the library when she received a snap that nearly made her scream out loud. It was a picture of her, taken from behind, sitting at the very table where she was studying. She could see her laptop, her textbooks, even the coffee cup beside her elbow. Someone was watching her right now, in this very moment. Tyler's heart pounded as she slowly turned around, scanning the library for anyone with a phone pointed in her direction. The library was nearly empty, just a few scattered students hunched over their books. None of them appeared to be looking at her, but someone had to be. She quickly packed her things and rushed toward the exit, her phone buzzing with another snap notification. Against her better judgment, she opened it. This time, it was a video. The shaky footage showed her rushing through the library, packing her bag, the fear evident on her face. Whoever was filming had captured her reaction in real time. That night, Tyler didn't sleep. She sat in her friend's room with the door locked, staring at her phone, waiting for the next snap. It came at 3:17 a.m., a picture of her friend's dorm building, taken from the ground looking up. The phantom snapper had followed her here too. Tyler finally went to the police the next morning. The detective assigned to her case was Officer Martinez, a middle-aged woman who specialized in cyberstalking cases. Officer Martinez explained that Snapchat stalking had become increasingly common, especially on college campuses. What Officer Martinez discovered during her investigation was more disturbing than anyone had imagined. Using Snapchat's location services and some technical assistance from the platform's security team, they were able to trace the accounts back to a single device. The device belonged to someone who had been systematically stalking multiple female students across 3 different universities in Oregon. The stalker wasn't just targeting Tyler. He had been creating fake accounts to harass dozens of young women using sophisticated methods to track their locations and daily routines. He would study their social media posts, learn their schedules, and then use that information to appear wherever they were. always staying just out of sight while documenting their lives through his lens. When police finally arrested him, they found terabytes of photos and videos of unsuspecting women stored on his computer. David Chen, a 34-year-old unemployed programmer, Todd, been living in his car and using the free Wi-Fi from various coffee shops and libraries to orchestrate his stalking campaigns. During his interrogation, Chen revealed the disturbing extent of his obsession. He explained how he would spend hours studying each victim's social media presence, learning their habits, their favorite places, their class schedules. He had created detailed profiles of each woman, complete with maps of their daily routes and timetables of their activities. What made Chen's case particularly chilling was his method of psychological manipulation. He would deliberately send the mysterious snaps at late hours to maximize fear and anxiety. He wanted his victims to feel constantly watched, constantly unsafe. The random locations in his early snaps were carefully chosen. They were all places his victims frequented, photographed just before or after the women had been there. Chen pleaded guilty to multiple counts of stalking and harassment. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison and required to register as a sex offender. Tyler testified at his sentencing hearing, describing the months of terror she had endured and the lasting impact on her mental health. Today, Tyler has graduated from college and moved to a different state. Okay, she still uses social media, but she's extremely cautious about her privacy settings and location sharing. Okay, she never accepts friend requests from accounts she doesn't recognize, and she regularly checks her privacy settings to ensure her location isn't being shared without her knowledge. Tyler's case led to increased awareness about Snapchat stalking on her campus. The university now includes social media safety in their orientation programs, and campus security has developed specific protocols for handling cyberstalking reports. The second story comes from Remington, a 22-year-old from Atlanta, Georgia. Remington had been using Snapchat since high school and thought he understood all the risks that came with social media. He was wrong. It was a typical Friday night in March when Remington received a friend request from someone named Alani. Her profile picture showed a pretty blonde girl about his age, and they appeared to have several mutual friends. Remington didn't immediately recognize her, but with over 800 friends on various social media platforms, that wasn't unusual. He accepted the request. Lonnie started chatting with Remington almost immediately, was flirty, engaging, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know him. He claimed to be a nursing student at Georgia State University and said they had met briefly at a party a few months earlier. Remington couldn't recall meeting her, but he had attended several large parties that semester, so he gave her the benefit of the doubt. Over the next few weeks, Remington and Alani developed what felt like a real connection. They exchanged snaps daily, chatted about their classes, shared memes, and talked about their future plans. Alani seemed perfect. She was funny, intelligent, and shared many of Remington's interests. She was also incredibly attractive, sending him snaps that showed her in various outfits and locations around Atlanta. Remington started developing real feelings for Alani. When she suggested they meet in person, he was thrilled. They made plans to meet at a popular coffee shop near the Georgia State campus on a Saturday afternoon. Remington arrived early, nervous but excited to finally meet this girl who had captured his attention. Lonnie never showed up. Remington waited for over an hour, sending her snaps and text messages asking if everything was okay. Her responses were apologetic but vague. She claimed a family emergency had come up and she had to leave town suddenly. She promised to make it up to him and suggested they reschedule for the following week. This pattern repeated itself 3 more times over the next month. Alani would enthusiastically agree to meet. They would make specific plans, screened, and then she would cancel at the last minute with increasingly elaborate excuses. Remington was frustrated, but still held on to hope that they would eventually meet. Then, Remington made a discovery that changed everything. While browsing Instagram one evening, Remington came across a photo that made his stomach drop. It was one of the same pictures that Alani had sent him on Snapchat, but it was posted on a completely different account belonging to a girl named Amanda from California. The photo was over 2 years old. Remington spent the next several hours doing reverse image searches on all the photos Alani had sent him. Every single one belonged to different people, models, influencers, and regular social media users from across the country. Alani wasn't real. She was a catfish, and Remington had fallen for it completely. But the story gets much darker. Remington decided to confront Alani about the fake photos, and he sent her a message explaining what he had discovered. Her response was unlike anything he had received from her before. His flirty, sweet personality disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. Alani admitted she wasn't who she claimed to be, but she wasn't apologetic about it. Instead, she seemed amused by Remington's discovery. She told him that creating fake personas and manipulating people online was something she enjoyed. She bragged about how easy it had been to make him fall for her fictional character. Then, Alani revealed something that made Remington's blood run cold. She told him she knew where he lived, and to prove her point, Alani sent Remington a snap that showed the front of his apartment building, then another showing his car in the parking lot, then a third showing the view from his bedroom window, clearly taken from the building across the street. Remington realized that while he had been sharing details about his life with Alani, she had been gathering information about him. She knew his class schedule, his work schedule, where he lived, what car he drove, and where he spent his free time. Kana had been using their conversations to build a comprehensive profile of his life. The harassment escalated quickly. Alani began sending Remington disturbing messages at all hours of the day and night. She would describe what he was wearing, what he was doing, where he was going. Steve seemed to have constant surveillance on his activities. Remington tried blocking Alani, but she simply created new accounts and continued the harassment. She started sending snaps from inside locations where Remington spent time. His workplace, his gym, restaurants he frequented. Someone was physically following him, documenting his movements. The psychological impact on Remington was severe. He became paranoid and anxious, constantly looking over his shoulder, afraid to maintain his normal routines. He stopped going to his favorite places and avoided being alone whenever possible. Remington finally went to the police when Alani sent him a snap that showed the interior of his apartment. Someone had been inside his home while he was at work. The photo showed his living room, taken from an angle that proved the photographer had been standing inside his apartment. Detective Williams, who handled Remington's case, explained that this type of harassment had become increasingly sophisticated. The perpetrator wasn't just catfishing. They were orchestrating a complex stalking operation that involved both online manipulation and physical surveillance. The investigation revealed that Alani was actually a 28-year-old man named Robert Thompson, who lived in Alabama. Thompson had been running multiple catfishing operations simultaneously, targeting young men across the southeastern United States. He would create fake female personas, develop emotional relationships with his victims, and then use the information he gathered to stalk and terrorize them. Thompson had enlisted the help of accomplices in various cities to carry out the physical surveillance and break-ins. He would pay people small amounts of money to follow his victims, take photos, and even enter their homes when possible. He had created a network of individuals who would act on his behalf, often without fully understanding the scope of what they were participating in. When police arrested Thompson, they discovered he had been operating this scheme for over 3 years. He had victimized more than 50 young men, collecting detailed personal information about each one. His computer contained thousands of photos and videos of his victims, along with detailed notes about their daily routines and personal lives. Thompson's accomplices were harder to track down, as he had used encrypted messaging apps and cryptocurrency payments to maintain their anonymity. However, police were able to identify and arrest several individuals who had participated in the stalking activities. Kemick testified against Thompson during his trial, describing the months of terror and the lasting impact on his mental health. Kempson was sentenced to 8 years in prison for multiple counts of stalking, harassment, breaking and entering, and identity theft. The case highlighted the dangers of sharing personal information with online acquaintances, even those who seem trustworthy. Remington now advocates for social media safety awareness and has spoken at several universities about his experience. Remington has since moved to a different city and changed his phone number. He still uses social media, but is much more cautious about accepting friend requests and sharing personal information. The experience taught him that the person behind a social media profile might be very different from who they claim to be, and that online relationships can have very real and dangerous consequences in the physical world. Our final story comes from Lilith, an 18-year-old high school senior from a small town in Wisconsin. Lilith's story shows how quickly a seemingly innocent social media interaction can spiral into a nightmare that threatens not just one person, but an entire family. Lilith had always been responsible with social media. Her parents had taught her about online safety from a young age, and she was careful about what she posted and who she connected with. But during her senior year, Lilith made one small mistake that nearly cost her everything. It was late October, and Lilith was feeling stressed about college applications and upcoming exams. She had been working late on a history project when she decided to take a break and check Snapchat. That's when she received a friend request from someone named Tyler, who claimed to be a college freshman at the University of Wisconsin. Tyler's profile looked legitimate. He had a normal-looking profile picture, and his Snap score suggested he was an active user. More importantly, he claimed to be from Lilith's hometown and said he had graduated from her high school the year before. Lilith didn't remember him, but her school was large, and it was entirely possible they had never crossed paths. Lilith accepted the friend request, thinking it would be nice to connect with someone who had recently gone through the college application process. Tyler seemed friendly and helpful, offering advice about college essays and sharing his experiences as a freshman. Their conversations were innocent at first. Tyler would send snaps of his dorm room, campus buildings, and dining hall food. He asked about Lilith's college plans and offered to help her with applications to schools she was considering. Lilith appreciated having someone to talk to who understood the stress she was going through. After a few weeks of casual conversation, Tyler suggested they meet in person when he came home for Thanksgiving break. Lilith was hesitant. She had never met someone from social media in real life before, but Tyler seemed harmless, and they were from the same small town where everyone knew everyone. Lilith agreed to meet him at the local coffee shop the Saturday after Thanksgiving. That meeting never happened, but not for the reason Lilith expected. 3 days before Tyler was supposed to return home for break, Lilith received a snap that made her question everything. It was a photo of her house, taken from across the street, with a timestamp showing it had been taken just minutes earlier. The message that came with it was simple: getting to know the neighborhood. Lilith's hands shook as she stared at the image. Tyler was supposed to be at college 3 hours away, but someone had just taken a picture of her house. She immediately called Tyler, but the call went straight to voicemail. She sent him several snaps asking for an explanation, but he didn't respond. That night, Lilith couldn't sleep. She kept checking her phone, hoping for some explanation from Tyler that would make sense of what she had seen. Instead, she received another snap at 2:30 a.m. This one showed her backyard, taken from the woods behind her house. The message read, "Nice garden. Your mom must like flowers." Lilith's mother did love gardening, and their backyard was filled with flower beds that she tended meticulously. But how could Tyler know that? And why was someone taking pictures of her house in the middle of the night? Lilith woke her parents and showed them the snaps. Her father immediately called the police, while her mother helped Lilith block Tyler's account. But blocking him didn't stop the harassment. it only made it worse. Over the next few days, Lilith and her family received snaps from multiple new accounts, all with random usernames similar to Tyler's original account. The photos showed different angles of their house, their cars, and even the interior of rooms visible through windows. Someone was conducting systematic surveillance of their home. The messages became increasingly personal and threatening. The stalker knew details about Lilith's family that could only have been obtained through careful observation. He knew what time Lilith's father left for work, when her mother went grocery shopping, and what time Lilith usually came home from school. Lilith's parents were terrified, installed security cameras, changed their daily routines, and considered sending Lilith to stay with relatives in another state. The police were investigating, but the stalker was using sophisticated methods to hide his identity, routing his internet connection through multiple proxy servers and using prepaid phones to create new accounts. The situation reached a terrifying climax on a Tuesday night in early December. Kelly was home alone, studying for a calculus exam, when she heard a sound outside her bedroom window. She looked out and saw a figure standing in their backyard, partially hidden behind a tree. Lilith immediately called 911 and then texted her parents, who were at a dinner party across town. While she was on the phone with the emergency dispatcher, she received a snap notification. With trembling hands, she opened it to find a video taken from outside her bedroom window, showing her talking on the phone. The stalker was watching her in real time. Police arrived within minutes, but the figure had disappeared into the woods behind Lilith's house. A thorough search with K9 units found evidence that someone had been camping in the woods for several days: a small tent, food wrappers, and multiple cell phones. The investigation that followed revealed the disturbing truth about Tyler. He wasn't a college student at all. His real name was Kevin Mitchell, a 31-year-old registered sex offender who had been released from prison just 6 months earlier. Mitchell had served 4 years for stalking and sexually assaulting a teenage girl in Minnesota. Mitchell had been using fake social media profiles to target high school girls across the Midwest. He would spend weeks building trust with his victims, gathering personal information, and then travel to their towns to begin physical surveillance. Lilith was his third victim in Wisconsin alone. What made Mitchell's case particularly disturbing was his level of preparation and patience. He would research his victims' families, schools, and communities before making contact. He had created detailed files on each girl, including maps of their neighborhoods, schedules of family activities, and floor plans of their homes that he had reconstructed from photos and surveillance. Mitchell had been living in the woods behind Lilith's house for over a week, using the cell phones found by police to maintain multiple fake social media accounts. He had been planning to break into the house when the family was away, but Lilith's call to 911 had interrupted his plan. During his arrest, Mitchell was found in possession of items that suggested he had been planning to kidnap Lilith. Police found zip ties, duct tape, and sedatives in his car. A search of his apartment in Milwaukee revealed detailed plans for abducting Lilith and transporting her to a remote cabin he had rented in northern Wisconsin. Lilith's case became a wake-up call for her small community about the dangers of social media predators. Mitchell had specifically targeted girls from small towns, believing they would be more trusting and less likely to suspect danger from someone claiming to be from their community. During Mitchell's sentencing hearing, the prosecutor revealed that he had been targeting victims across multiple states using the same methodology to identify, groom, and stalk teenage girls. He had victim files on over 30 girls, and Lilith was not his first intended kidnapping victim. Mitchell was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge noted that his use of social media to target minors and his escalation to physical stalking and attempted kidnapping demonstrated that he posed an extreme ongoing threat to public safety. Lilith and her family have since moved to a different state. Lilith delayed starting college for a year while she recovered from the trauma of the experience. She now works with law enforcement agencies to educate young people about social media safety and the tactics used by online predators. Lilith's story illustrates how quickly an innocent social media connection can become a life-threatening situation. Her experience led to changes in how her former school district teaches social media safety, and her family has become advocates for stronger laws regarding online stalking and predatory behavior. The three stories you've heard tonight demonstrate the dark side of social media platforms like Snapchat can be great tools for staying connected with friends and family. They can also be exploited by those with malicious intentions. The disappearing nature of Snapchat messages can create a false sense of security, making users more likely to share personal information or engage with strangers. If you're using Snapchat or any social media platform, remember to keep your privacy settings tight. Never share personal information with people you don't know in real life, and trust your instincts if something feels wrong. If you ever feel like you're being stalked or harassed online, don't hesitate to contact law enforcement, okay? These situations can escalate quickly, and early intervention can prevent them from becoming dangerous. Stay safe out there, and remember that the person on the other side of that screen might not be who they claim to be.